Hello, guys. Welcome to the Abstract Room. My name is Sankal, and today we're discussing Piku. Anybody who watched the film when the film came out, what was that feeling like? What were your experiences back then?
Yeah, so I watched the film when it released. So I went to the theater to watch it. My memory is very hazy, but I remember enjoying it a lot. And after that, when I did watch it, one thing that stood out to me was um, how I could, for some reason, connect to at least one thing about every character and how beautifully every character was sort of शेल आउट किया था. नॉट इवन वन कैरेक्टर फेल्ट की बहुत ही ऊपर ऊपर से, फ्रॉम मौशमा चैटर्जी का कैरेक्टर टू लाइक the chota bhai of Amitabh Bachchan. All of them had something, some dialogue or something that expressed so much, and I think that immediately caught my attention because it was so full, right? Agar a film, I remember, I think Schitt's Creek का जो writer है, he had written कि a good comedy is grounded in very good character work. Like if you have very good characters fleshed out, then the comedy, the humor, everything comes out a lot better. And I think that is what happened in Pico also. Each of the characters are very beautifully written, and uski wajah se the entire dynamic of their conversations, etc., was so much more fun to watch. So that is something that had stayed with me.
That's lovely to hear, actually. Bhumika, please go ahead.
So I remember I watched this film when we were on a summer vacation to my nanny's house, and all of us had gone to this newly opened mall in a tier two, where I'd call it a tier three city, honestly, because it doesn't even have an airport. And we went there, and pura mall ऐसे खाली था. Only the theater was filled because Piku लगी है, दीपिका और अमिताभ की पिक्चर है. We were kids back then, और कुछ समझ नहीं था क्या फिल्म सेंसिबिलिटी, क्या कुछ हो रहा है, पता नहीं, कुछ समझ ही नहीं आया था. But all I remember was coming out and yelling to my brother and sister and other cousins also कि ये तो मुझे मेरे दादा के साथ देखनी थी यार, तुम लोग क्यों ले आए? Because my dada had this constant ritual कि रात को गरम दूध पीना ही है, सुबह उठ के 4 ग्लास गरम पानी पीना ही है. So the struggle felt real after watching it. I think I could empathize with him after watching the film.
Wow, that's so cool.
And I saw it again today. ऐसा नहीं था कि I remembered the film by heart because इतने साल पहले देखी थी फिर भी, but because the lyrics of the song even hit today. So I was like, मैं वापस मुझे देखने की जरूरत नहीं है. And I was like, ठीक है, आधा घंटा ऐसे ही browse through कर दूंगी. And but एक बार start करके देखना तो ऐसा लग रहा था revised sensibility के साथ देख रही हूँ. And I was like, ये वाला part तो मैंने तभी notice नहीं किया था, ये तो मेरे को याद ही नहीं है, ये भी हुआ था, ये भी हुआ था. So in my head I was just wondering about Juhi Chaturvedi all the time कि ऐसे ऐसे करके I was drawing parallels between Vicky Donor and Pico, and it was just amazing to revisit it.
That's so lovely. I mean, honestly speaking, Juhi Chaturvedi, I feel like, like what sort of a life you'll have to live to be able to to tell so many stories with that same director, with so many nuances from different cultures in every film. So fascinating. It's so fascinating.
Indeed.
We'll talk about more आगे जाके इसके बारे में.
Yes.
But Arnav, please go ahead. Arnav, I'll just add one question also here. What is this film really about?
Yeah, I went obviously in the theaters. The trailer looked quirky and interesting, of course, because I mean it was different. I mean everybody would agree that that trailer looked different. जब उस time पे आया था, so I was like ये movie देखनी है. Two other plus points for me was it was something based out of Calcutta or Bengal, so I was like हाँ ये तो definitely जानी है. तो ऐसे गया था, but no high expectations, low expectations, but I went for the movie. It was our summer mid semester break, मतलब नहीं summer semester break. तो मैं घर आया हुआ था, I was in Calcutta only, and वहाँ पे गए थे मूवी देखने, and went into the theaters. एक तो शुरू में ही इतना अच्छा लगा, actually शुरू से ही इतना अच्छा लगा, because that theme comes in the title now. It start ही होता है, उससे कोई sequence नहीं, कुछ नहीं. First they put you into the zone. I liked how they did that. Okay, they start with the Sarod theme only. Pura bajta hai, and that beautifully like the calligraphy that with the bindi, the black on white and the bindi. But I think it looks very very surreal, very beautiful, and somehow it felt very Bengali. So मैं like हाँ अच्छा लग रहा है. So it started, and everything else was movie के nicks and knacks में तो like I'll come later. But what I felt through the film was that I mean, Piku was never a film for me. Piku is never a film for me. Piku is life, because I always felt that it was a very kind of a chiseled snapshot, like very well taken, well framed snapshot from anyone's and everyone's life. It was nothing about what actually was what played through the stem of the, like Radhika. Actually, Radhika stole most of my things which I wanted to say. Radhika said actually whatever I had in my mind. But Piku is like that. Life is that uncertain. Life is that, like that irritation. One thing happens in life with people, with family, with parents, with children, everything. And because जितना hunky dory generally movies में दिखाते हैं उतना life में नहीं होता है. Life is that kind of a friction, and it shows it very well. It never tries to conceal the जहाँ पे awkwardness है, जहाँ वहाँ पे awkwardness है, जहाँ पे there is a kind of a smooth, like a silent exchange of respect also. वहाँ पे there is a silent exchange of respect also. So it shows everything. It's kind of film which needs to be celebrated, I feel. I seriously feel that we celebrate Piku much less. It should be celebrated more, not talked more. It should be celebrated. It's kind of a film which should be celebrated.
The movie mostly for me is about how fragile and how less of a human's life is. Like you can't really always be so sure of whatever you're doing. So more or less for me, it was more about how much you live in the specific amount of time that you're going to actually live your life. When you're not a burden to somebody else, or just a block or an obstacle in somebody else's life. So we can talk about that more.
So basically, I saw Piku in the theater, of course. I was in college at that time, 12th standard with PM. So I went because of the trailer, okay? Because the trailer was very interesting, especially the end of the trailer where he's like, in the yeah, and Irrfan just looks at him and he's like, what is happening? So basically, I went because of Irrfan, actually, because I knew that Deepika, Amitabh were great. But Irrfan has his certain elegance. उनकी तो बात ही मैं बाद में करूँगी. So basically, I think to answer your question, I don't think it's about one particular thing. I think it's about acceptance of loved ones, like however they are, whatever they are. She says, like when they're talking by the river, कि वो जैसे भी है, जो भी है, वो मुझ पे dependent है. और तुम्हें अपने 9 साल के बच्चे को साथ में लेके आना पड़ेगा. So that's what the relationship is like. No matter how much they crib and fight, at the end of the day, if उनको slightly भी inconvenient होता है, तो she's like, oh shit, just go back to being your childish self. I want you to be normal again. So I think that film is about acceptance of our loved ones, however they are, and sort of taking it in our stride, making space in our life for all of that. And it's about, I think, one particular thing that struck me was balance. Like Piku and Bhaskwar's life is very chaotic. Her life is very like frenzy, all in a rush. He's constantly cackling. But then Irrfan comes in with a sort of like understated elegance. Like वो शांति से आता है. अरे मैडम को कोई लेके जाएगा क्या? अरे दिल की बुरी नहीं है वो. तो वो ऐसे आता है करके. And he sort of makes space in their life. काफी अच्छा balance बन जाता है उनका. And his understated subtle romance with Deepika, like not shown, but glances and sort of very subtle it is. That I like. Wonderful.
Absolutely. Those glances that were there between them. The example I remember, he was about to leave and she's eating, I think, some fruit, and what is going on here? So cute. But yeah, whatever. Shraddha, please go ahead.
So Piku is very personal to me. I literally have same kind of relationship with my father. Irritating level max, embarrassing me in public max level. And people just come to our house and sees him and like, what is going on? They literally like plays in Irrfan's character and what's going on, why is he like that? So in that way, Piku is very personal for me. And again, I come from a family where we don't express love much to each other. Like
Like we do things out of love, but we don't say it often or do that often. So even Irfan has that relationship with his family, and Piku also has with her father. So in that level, Piku is very relatable for me.
हाँ तो भाई पीकू मैंने पहले भी कहा था, मुझे बस पीकू मतलब मैं क्या बोलूं पीकू के बारे में, मतलब कम है कुछ भी बोलो उसके बारे में। बट आई थिंक कि जो मुझे पसंद आती है पीकू के अंदर, मैं जो पहले भी गैंग्स ऑफ वासेपुर वगैरह में बोल चुका हूँ कि व्हेन वी आर वाचिंग अ फिल्म 2 आवर एंड 30 मिनट्स फिल्म, तो हमें उसकी उन सारे कैरेक्टर्स की लाइफ के साथ हमें सिर्फ एक महीना, लाइक अगर पीकू की बात करूं तो मुश्किल से 1 महीना हम लोग जान पाते कि उस 1 महीने में इनकी लाइफ में क्या हो रहा है। बट उनकी लाइफ तो ज्यादा है ना, 25-30 साल, उनकी 60 साल। सो वो कैरेक्टर्स फील करना है कि these characters can have a, मतलब आप मतलब यू कैन सी कि भास्कर बनर्जी की लाइफ पे यू वांट टू सी मोर, भास्कर बनर्जी के साथ क्या हुआ, यू वांट टू सी दोस थिंग्स मोर। पीकू के साथ आगे क्या हुआ, पीकू के साथ इरफान का रोमांस आगे कहाँ गया, इरफान खान को किस वजह से नौकरी छोड़नी पड़ी, तो दोस थिंग्स वो बहुत पता नहीं ये लोग कैसे करते, मुझे नहीं पता। अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट व्हाट पीकू इज फॉर मी, मैंने पहले सोशल मीडिया पोस्ट पे डाला था ये वाला कि इट्स अबाउट तीन चीजों के बारे में, कि तीन कल्चर है एंड दे आर कमिंग टुगेदर। लाइक जो दिल्ली का कल्चर है, एक मेट्रोपॉलिटन सिटी का कल्चर, उसके बाद एक हाई एंड यूपी का कल्चर जो नॉर्थ की साइड का, और एक बंगाली कल्चर। लाइक इरफान खान इज रिप्रेजेंटिंग द यूपी वाला कल्चर और बंगाली कल्चर, और both the cultures are very conservative about themselves. मतलब even Bengali are very proud and very conservative, and similarly the northern side and the Delhi side, the Delhi part, which is the metropolitan city, is where those two come together. Like दोनों आते हैं सम्मेलन, वो यूपी के थ्रू होते हुए कोलकाता जाते हैं। So it's like that. वो मेरे को बहुत पसंद है।
Yes, so like for me, the timing when I watched Piku was also very special. So like I watched it with my father for the first time, and we were going to Assam from Kolkata. Okay, so in between, like the flight duration, that is when me and my father watched the movie together. So with the Piku, just like Shraddha holds a very personal space in my heart, because like my father is the kind of person, he used to be the kind of person who, you know, when once entered the room, you will know he's there, and everything would be about him. That was it. That is how he is. So like that is why, you know, and obviously as Radhika already mentioned in the chat box, that is what I was going to say here. So you know, like Piku for me is about, you know, the parental relationships, how even if, you know, like I kind of stay a bit worried, okay, what my father and I, we hold a very special relationship at the moment. So I was like, if we grow up, how would this be? So to see having, you know, grown up relationships between father daughter was kind of calming for me, and that is why, you know, I appreciate Piku so much for the relationship they have shown throughout the film. So that is that about me.
एक्चुअली एक इंसिडेंट है, जब मैंने इस मूवी का ट्रेलर देखा मुझे एकदम अच्छा नहीं लगा। मुझे लगा कि क्या है, बकवास है, कुछ भी इमोशन से इमोशन जुड़ा है, ये वो कुछ भी दिखा है, ठीक है। मुझे मतलब एकदम सर के ऊपर से ये क्या मूवी बनाया, ठीक है, होगा जो भी है। तो एग्जैक्टली मुझे याद भी नहीं है कि मैंने मूवी फर्स्ट टाइम देखी थी एग्जैक्टली, बट अभी ऐसा हो गया, मैं आई हैव लॉस्ट काउंट कि मैंने कितनी बार वो मूवी देखी है। मतलब सो अभी एग्जैक्टली पीकू के बारे में मुझे सबसे अच्छा क्या लगता है, एग्जैक्टली मैं मेरा जो चाइल्डहुड था दैट वाज इन द नेबरहुड ऑफ अ बंगाली फैमिली। सो मेरा पूरा मतलब चाइल्डहुड वैसे बंगाली नेबरहुड में बीता, तो आई वाज लाइक Piku के साथ I could live my childhood actually. The Bengali family, whatever the जितना भी शोर शराबा that उसमें movie में है, and all the madness that they have in Kolkata, that her house, so that brings some like great memories of my childhood. And इसके अलावा also that movie has Banaras in it, although it's for 5 minutes, but still. And I belong to Banaras, so that actually makes me proud also. that it's a good movie, and how I like got so near to that movie.
It was just nice to see a movie without any apparent romantic angle in it. Matlab, I think last May when they're standing on the jetty, Deepika and Irfan, you may think that okay, कुछ तो शायद है, but ऐसा कुछ ऐसे कुछ दिख के आता नहीं है. So that was one thing I really liked, and also I think that old house where they go, Calcutta में वो पुरानी घर पे. So the thing is, I've visited Calcutta only once. I was very, very young. So I'd obviously like to visit again, and I really like those kind of houses. So Purani Ghar bahut pasand hai. So that was one thing I liked about it.
So, there are, technically, as Rhythm also said, I think there are 3 cultures that are being represented according to me. But not exactly how Rhythm had said in this thing. But I think एक तो ये दिल्ली वाला कल्चर, एक दिल्ली यूपी का कुछ मिक्सचर जो इरफान की फैमिली और इरफान का एक वो आता है. उसके अलावा obviously the Bengali culture that's being represented in Bengalis in Delhi and Bengalis in Kolkata. And the third one that's being represented is the remember the maid that these people had, very small scene, but like she was a Bihari, right? So there are 3 cultures being represented in one way or the other in the entire film. How, like, I wanted to know if any of you belong from those cultures. How appropriately do you think have these cultures been represented in the film? And where did they go wrong, or where did they go right in terms of their representation?
Yeah, I would definitely not be saying about the Irfan's family or the maid, but even jitna dikhaya hai, because Irfan's family seems to, is supposed to be hailing from Hardoi district, right? Zilla, somewhere from that side. So he's Chaudhary and he's got that kind of thing. So us hisab se bhi jitna I have friends and all from those regions, jitna dikhaya, it felt good. I'll not talk much on that, obviously. I'll come to the Bengali part. Very well shown, very accurately shown, very accurately portrayed. Especially because it's a distinction between Bengalis in Calcutta and Sandila district Hardoi, right? Thank you. Because it's a distinction between Bengalis in Calcutta and Bengalis completely based out of Calcutta. They are Bengalis, but there are obviously differences. But so because Delhi mein culture alag tarike ka hai, like rehan sahn and everything, culture alag tarike ka hai thoda, and it gets into you. You cannot much help it. It gets into a little bit of you. So when Piku and Bhashkot's story is shown, especially in the Delhi part, jab Calcutta mein aate na, the differences, they kind of I would say they kind of like fuse together. Differences nahi dikhta ke wo wahan se hai and she is from here. वो differences नहीं दिखता, but when they are in Delhi, like that, having the late night parties, and especially and also one other pillar of showing the Delhi bong culture was Chobimashi, because I think that was a very great pillar, because like she's like married 4 times, big deal for me. I've married 4 times, I've married 3 times. मैं 4th marriage के लिए भी ready हूँ. So she's like that, wine and everything, very erudite, kind of very elite. That kind of a thing. Whereas when you see just this portion of the movie, like when Piku's uncle and aunt is shown, Kaku and Kakima is shown, they're kind of very simple. She still sits on the floor and cuts like chops the vegetables on that moti, that thing which we call as moti. So it's still that simple, but not to forget that she is also a very educated woman. She's not a very like an illiterate woman. She's a postgraduate, and she had a job offer which she refused. So this is a choice which she made, but she's educated. She knows everything, but she still retains that simplicity that she can sit on the floor and do things. Whereas when you see Chobimashi, she is kind of a contrasting thing. Yeah, same Radhika. I also did a full movie on Chobimashi. I just want to watch more Chobi, and because so I think it was very accurately done. And given that Shujit himself is Bengali and he himself hails from Delhi, actually, so I think it was very intelligent. It was very intelligent of him to place the cities as Delhi and Calcutta.
I wish to talk about specifically with regards to the themes of the film. There are certain very interesting themes that the film talked about. The one prominent theme, I think, was about death and the relationship between life and death and everything in between. What do you think you understood about death from the film? What was the film like? Let me be more specific. What did the film जब end में भास्कर की death हो जाती है and the reaction of Piku and everything around before that also when they talk about death, what does it tell you about death and what do you understand about the film's philosophy about death?
So it's just my personal opinion. Please do not anybody don't get offended or anything. It's just something that I feel or have my thought process around that. I sometimes feel that it's just emotion. Of course, it's so every death in anybody's family is with respect to emotions that you share with that person. Like that is how you are going to feel it. That is how it deeply is going to affect you. It's a difference. Then the affection and the point of contact with that person and how close are you to that person is always something that differs in the same house also. So somewhere or the other, I feel that I have this very different opinion about that because I mean I can say I'm being a little practical about these things, but somewhere or the other I know that I might feel it a little that if somebody from my family dies, I would definitely feel it up to a point. But then somewhere or the other, I just feel, what if I feel nothing? So that is what it made me feel when I was watching that scene. Like I have been in the journey with them throughout this entire time, and somewhere or the other, I was expecting him to die. Like up till a point, you know that something is going to be off because he had such a lovely day of his life, and after such a long time, and then you getting to know that he's not there anymore in their lives is something that affects you personally because as somebody mentioned a few minutes ago that you're taking that journey with them, so you have been a part of their family at least for that 1 month or how much of a period that was. So for me that has been a very practical thing to think about, and rather than I think what the film made me feel is that, as I mentioned when I was telling about how I felt about the movie, that it's about just life is how short or how fragile, and you never know what is going to hit you, or you never know what is going to be the turning point of your life for somebody else as well. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it.
There was this one line, very fleetingly it was mentioned. I think they had stopped midway गई road पे रुके थे, and Bhaskar I think said that ये जो path तुम्हारे सामने है अगर ये कभी खत्म भी नहीं हो सोचो कैसा होगा, कभी खत्म भी नहीं हो सोचो कैसा होगा. And I think that's the entire philosophy of the film also in one way or the other. It's about the act of letting go eventually, but before that also about the realization of the impermanence of life and relationships and in memories also in some sense, and the dynamic and transient nature of it all. So I think that is something that I really talked about. Yes, Bhumika.
I had seen an interview of Juhi Chaturvedi's where she said that after she wrote this part in the screenplay, that Bhaskar was no more, she couldn't write for 3-4 days at a stretch because she was crying incessantly, and her husband was telling her कि अरे ठीक है ना character मत मारो उसको, बोलती पर नहीं ऐसा नहीं हो सकता ना वो मर चुका है. And I'm like that, I feel unless and until a writer doesn't feel the emotions that he's trying to express in his own script, I think any writing is pointless. अगर वो खुद नहीं हंस रही है, खुद नहीं रो रही है ऐसा कुछ लिखते हुए, तो what's the point of doing, like going ahead with it? My personal equation with that is कि मैं बहुत prepared हूँ. मैंने in my mind, because after my cat's death, after my grandfather's death, after some close friends' grandfather's death, I think अब तो मैं ऐसे prepared हूँ ना कि in my mind I have prepared myself for every death that can be possible, because it's such a, like after the, like during COVID, it was a very ऐसे हाँ ठीक है अच्छा इधर okay. I remember my roommate one day, she was just crying, and I was outside in the hall. I knocked on her door कि क्या हुआ? She's like, my closest cousin passed away. And again, I felt like, okay, okay. So in my mind, I'm prepared for it. And I think Piku also, they've not shown some exorbitant expressions, or they've not shown her draining emotionally or anything like that. They've shown her ki theek hai, she was ultimately happy that he passed away very peacefully. And I think that teaches a lot to us about person and how our equation can be about death. You know it is inevitable, so you can in your mind have your own way of dealing with it. So yeah.
That's genuinely very interesting to hear. I mean, interesting in the sense that it really makes you think. Radhika?
Yeah, so I had written ki one of the main themes that I had also noticed in the movie was growing old, because seldom do we talk about the existentialism that people at that age feel, because you're constantly waiting for death almost. There is loneliness, there is lack of any ambition, physical incapability, feeling helpless, constantly being dependent on someone or the other. And I mean, that was very like really portrayed uske andar bhi. Like Amitabh Bachchan has like almost become like a hypochondriac, like meko ye hai, meko wo hai, because he has so much time, he has to put it somewhere. And the entire death arc, like I agree with all the points that everyone made about it, ki that longingness and the peaceful, like the serenity that Piku had when at the end at the funeral. I think Piku, as Deepika had portrayed her, seemed like a person who wasn't very expressive with her words. And I think that is what was reflected in her relationship with her father also. So the reason that she may not have grieved as much, or as not as much, but as expressively as one would have expected, that was probably because of the way that they both were as people. The grieving process was different, and she had already lost her mother. So I think losing her father, in a way where her father had one of the best days of his life, I think it was very peaceful for her. It's like, now he's rested and he's gone to his mother, and it fits, So that is why there was a certain sense of acceptance of it. Ki, okay. And when she says also, Baba's death was a happy one.
Yeah.
And that sort of sums it up very well.
So this session, mainly my purpose of joining the session was to actually know what people are thinking about this, because I didn't connect to the movie, or neither did I like it. So I'm sorry if I offend anyone, but I didn't. Not that I'm against, or not that I hate it or something. It's just that I something I don't enjoy. It just felt, I don't have anyone to connect with. I've never seen anyone in that position. All my grandparents have passed away when I was young. Only my grandmom stays in US, and I've never contact. So when the only thing, the deaths that I came across were after the COVID wave, the first wave. Sushant Singh Rajput passed away. I don't know why, but that hit like family. And after that, I saw two of my relative grandparents pass away. That kind of scared me. Not that I was close to them or anything, but I saw the impact of their death have on members that who were close with. So that made me really, really scared. My dad met in an accident when I was in my second class, and it triggered all of it. I didn't know that I was suppressing all of that all this while. And since then, the word death or the scenario of anyone just scares me the most. And honestly, I kind of feel like this feeling is very selfish. Not because I think what the person might have gone through before he experienced that, or touch wood, if he met with an accident, how painful it must have been for him. No, I feel sad because I am very selfish in this way. Like, what would my life be if they went away? It's kind of from a very selfish point of view. And even when the recent deaths that I experienced, like they were 90, 95 years old, 90 years old, everyone who told me when I was grieving a little about their death, told me that they passed away, they lived a full life. They didn't. People who have been in ICU for like 1 week or 10 days and have struggled a lot with their life, people, I mean, I was grieving about them. My mom and my dad told me that it's good that they went away without experiencing even more pain. And for people who have left without anything, they're like, good that she left without any pain. So there is no meaning for this, and that's the only point that I connect with the film. Like, this person died happily. Throughout the film, his every point he wanted to know how people died. Did they die because of something? How did they? Even about the ventilator scene that he was talking with Irfan, he didn't want to die in a very painful way. So he was very paranoid about it, and that's why he kept going back, asking people, even when he came across a newspaper article about the man who drove a cycle for some 99 years, he lived this long and all of that. He took a cycle, he drove it. So
Yeah.
that's the good part of the film. Like, that is the path. I mean, after watching this movie, maybe that is something that I understood. Like, why people tell that good that they left without experiencing a lot of pain, because we don't think from their perspective. कि उनको कैसे लग रहा है. We only think from our end. कि when someone talks about that, we like, don't talk about it. वो सब बात नहीं, but you don't know what goes through their head. I don't know. For me, it was that.
I watched this movie last year. I was exam period, so I was quite stressed. So it immediately became an comfort movie for me. But regarding that, I think Piku shows that very well, very practically, because as Siddharth said, I think I didn't feel much not feel much. Let's say I didn't feel too bad about Amitabh's death because we get to know that after all he at least died happy death, a peaceful death, But there is actually one let's say part where I could relate to. It was for Deepika's mother, because whenever I assume she died, like her mother in the movie died quite young, because we have her picture when that's her birthday, and like I think Deepika was exceptional in that to express her pain, like in through her eyes. And there is a scene like when they are in Kolkata, and I think Amitabh's brother, yes, it's her chacha, is describing her. You remember your wife was also with her feet on that side, and she gets immediately quite sad about it, and Irfan then quickly distracts her. So yeah, I think I felt that because after all, maybe her mother died, of course, in different circumstances than her father, and I think she felt that a lot more because it was, for many reasons and so yeah, I think and then also we have Irfan at the end when she meets Deepika where she pays, for a journey. You see Irfan that he's not very, he didn't even say, I'm sorry for your father. He just talks to her normally, and that's, I think, also the right way, because you don't want to, repeat what the person has gone through. But yeah, I think overall it was, but like in a movie like this, in a movie which is so warm, which is so pleasant, delightful. I mean, even the death was dealt, I think, greatly, perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah, sort of a very lyrical way in the other. And also, I mean, the reason I think why he didn't say I'm sorry for your loss something was because there was no layer of pretense between their relationship anyways. So that just seemed the right or natural thing to do.
So adding to point of Radhika, I guess, she mentioned that her father's death was a very happy death. And because I believe एक scene था जहाँ पे वो दिखाता है डॉक्टर कि like see this Japanese man and he died at the age of 99. Also he's very fit. So I guess कहीं ना कहीं भास्कर दिमाग में वो होगा that I'll do it somewhere, like कहीं ना कहीं करूँगा. And then after this news, वो सीन आता है जिसमें वो फर्स्ट टाइम घर से बाहर निकलता है. Like उससे पहले वो हमेशा हर सीन वो घर के अंदर रहता है. After that scene जो दिखाता है 99 years में he was still cycling. वो घर के बाहर दिखाता था. That was the first scene जो वो घर के बाहर आता है. So this was one thing. And the other thing that one thing observed that on her wife's on his wife's birthday, so they were celebrating. They had a few guests. So he was wearing the kurta given by her, given by his wife. So it shows like he has different opinions. He has very strong opinions like shadi without purpose is like low IQ, something like that. He has very strong opinions, but he's still in love with his wife and her daughter. So having different opinions, different strong opinions, but still acceptance of loved ones, as someone mentioned, Ria or someone mentioned. So these things, these are some of things I liked in this movie. So yes.
Thanks for that. I remember, so Janani talked about like how someone else's death can feel selfish. I don't know how I feel about that because I haven't experienced that. But in the film, there was this one part. One of the more prominently famous lines, like parents अपने आप जिंदा नहीं रह सकते एक टाइम के बाद में हमें जिंदा रखना पड़ता है. So I was really conflicted about what that was really trying to say. That particular line. जिंदा उनको रखना पड़ता है हमारे खुद के लिए या for their own sake, for whose sake should they be alive? What was she saying in that? And that's my question to the next three people who are like supposed to speak. उसी के around है तरीके से. So what was she trying to say in that? कि should they be alive for our sake? Because हमें डर होगा वो चले जाएंगे तो हमारी आइडेंटिटी का क्या होगा? हमारी आइडेंटिटी का हिस्सा एक चले जाएगा. Or is it because they will not be around? Like, what was it really about? The message, if it makes sense. Ria?
Okay, so I'll sort of talk about what you said, the first question and then this. So death, I think, is a very natural aspect in this film, as is like Mira bhi, my philosophy is that very stoic. You approach life as you approach death with the same sort of philosophy. So that's what he does in the film, right? As Radhika said, he sort of attempts to detach himself from that. Ki matlab the emotion, the anguish of death to make it clinical. Ki matlab, I am going to do this. He's a hypochondriac. Of course, he's going to make everything clinical. But the death bhi usne clinical kar diya. But I also like this. It's interesting how even if like how जितने भी हम rational हो ना death के बारे में, there is a certain emotional component to it. Like he is born in Kolkata and he's finally at peace over there. So it's sort of like his life has come full circle and it ends where it began. So it's very poetic like that. All of us want to die in a place where we are comforted, basically, जो familiar हो. Unfamiliar जगह में कोई मरना नहीं चाहता. So that's what sort of happened to him, and that's like the city meant that to him, the home meant that to him. So I think he found comfort in the familiarity of his surroundings, and that's why he let go. Along with that, that's why he let go in general. He went for the bicycle ride, he ate those things because he was not constipated anymore, even in his mind. So that's why his like bowel movements are all clear, and he's like, yeah, I had the best shit of my life. He's like, okay, now I'm ready to die. So मतलब वो मुझे काफी अच्छा लगा, like the entire like the circle, it was beautiful. And coming to your second question, I think that struck me as a little odd, because I don't think you should keep anyone alive against their wish, because as much as I've seen older people, after they reach a certain age, they start letting go already. Like वो धीरे धीरे ना अपना सब will बनाना, घर के ये sort करना, बच्चों के नाम property कर देना, वो ऐसे मन में चल के जाते कि I have lived a full life, I have nothing else to achieve. So the people that I have seen, there are a lot of other people who are like, 80 is not a small number, I will run a marathon. Great. I respect that. But like there are some people who are comfortable, like, okay, I've lived, I am ready to die. So I don't think I sort of I don't relate to that aspect of her कि parents को जिंदा रखना पड़ता है, but I guess what she meant by that was they are dependent on us emotionally. Like as kids, we are dependent on them. As parents, they are dependent on us. So the roles are kind of reversed. So I think she feels like jitna bhi wo independent, free spirited ho, she has that a little semblance of moral responsibility towards her dad. तो एंड वो मतलब प्यार भी है और थोड़ा मतलब ये भी है कि मतलब आई हैव अ ड्यूटी टू हिम एंड शी डजंट डू दिस आउट ऑफ अ सेंस ऑफ ड्यूटी कि करना है मतलब करना है. शी डज दिस आउट ऑफ द सेंस ऑफ लव. So even though I don't sort of agree with her thing, I understand where she comes from.
अमिताभ इस लास्ट वाले क्लाइमेक्स सीन में लास्ट सीन में ये अमिताभ बच्चन ने मतलब पूरा वो एक लेगेसी ही छोड़ी है कि अगर उनकी डेथ हुई ना तो वो ये वाली बात मतलब फिर से लोग देखेंगे इस फिल्म को उनकी वजह से ही. और
So firstly, I loved this movie. It was an amazing movie, and I connected to it like to a very large extent because I have like grandparents on both the sides, and I see my parents actually keeping them alive. So I connect to like I'm answering the second question.
Yeah.
So I really connect with what Deepika said that एक एज के बाद उन्हें हमें जिंदा रखना पड़ता है. I literally see my parents every day do that. It's almost like at an age they actually start doing it as a duty to probably it's from the society we live in. We always have come up with the whole value that we should kind of like take care of our parents, it's kind of our duty. And I feel it's just they start off doing that, but at a point when they're like in their 80s or in their 90s, it almost is like a little bit of an obsession. It turns into a little bit of an obsession because it's more like it's the children who are selfish. At that point of time, it's not all about the parents. I feel they've almost let go on. I mean, they'll let go about life. They just want to peacefully like stay and like leave whenever they want to leave. So it's more like it's about the children, and they want to keep them alive because they don't want to leave the child in them, because parents are the people who keep us alive as a child. So it's more about the parent. It's not about the parent at all. It's always about the child. And I feel in the movie Piku, probably I feel that she doesn't want to let go of Bhaskar at that age because she's maybe alone. She's alone as well. She has so many people around, but we all just I feel like she's alone, and Bhaskar is the one who's actually keeping that essence of Piku. She's a weird person. We all see that. I mean, she keeps saying that, but it's just the only person she could probably connect with is Bhaskar.
The first thing which we were discussing was on how the movie handles death and life, right? So, I think one word which the movie gave me was uncertainty. Because you go to sleep previous night and you just wake up finding that someone has passed away. That is life. I mean, I've seen incidents like that in my very personal, very close spaces. I've been through it. So yeah, that is life. So I think that is why probably Piku stands out, because it shows life as it is. It doesn't try to conceal, doesn't try to make a any sort of heightened naturalism or a heightened realism. It shows life plain and simple as it is, because that is how it happens. And many other dots to connect actually, like when they were talking about Piku's mother, whom we don't see in the movie but just a photograph, and Bhaskar, whose wife she is, he's very critical of her. So but he loves her so much at like even after so many years. That kurta scene, someone mentioned, I think Satyajit, I think mentioned that he's very critical. He has a very strong opinion about that, but at the same time, he's very loving. So that is it. I mean, you can be that applies very universally, because you can be very critical of someone, and you can love that person equally. Well, there is, I mean, being critical of someone doesn't equate to not loving that person. So I think that when again, what Sankalp you brought in beautifully was that what when Bhaskar says ye poth, actually poth bolte. It's a very old super hit Bengali song which they sing. Piku and Bhaskar which they sing. It's super duper hit classic, all time classic Bengali song which they sing. It says a poth jodina shesha, like what if this road never ends? And the original picturization is on motorcycle. The hero sings and the heroine sings. They're both riding a motorcycle, and that's the picturization. So they have this moment. So they do it like a tumi bolo kind of a thing. So then Bhaskar tries to explain to Irrfan, right, that what if this road never ends? How? So Irrfan very well, very well how it is written, that he brings in because he is driving. Man, अगर रोड खत्म ही नहीं तो उसको जिंदगी भर चलाता ही रहेगा क्या? रास्ता खत्म ही नहीं होगा. So there is humor, and in that humor there is that subtlety of the thing, that the road will end somewhere. I mean, I find it beautiful that someone brought it. I never expected someone to bring it, because that scene plays off in humor. That scene plays off generally over the top in humor. Nobody generally goes into this layer that rasta khatam nahi hota and rasta should khatam hona chahiye. So I think that is how it beautifully deals with, I mean, in multiple layers, with life, death, the uncertainty. And personally speaking, I don't think I'll have grown enough so that I have been unfortunate enough to witness too many deaths already. A very near and dear closed one, timely ones, untimely ones. I'm not going into details of them, not to be in the mood of the session. But still, even after that, I don't think I'll be ever prepared for anyone's death, whoever it might be. Even the cats, which my mother pets, when they pass away, I feel equally bad. Although I'm not very much attached to them, my mother is more attached to them. I'm not very much attached, but it still feel equally bad. It will always be that kind of a journey with me. But still, what Piku teaches me, or what Piku shows, which I can relate to, that is that uncertainty factor. You really never know. I go to sleep today, I wake up tomorrow, I don't know what happens. So I think I'll just close it over there.
Thanks for sharing, Arnav. चलो हाँ चिल बात करते हैं यार. एक बात बताओ, पिकू के लिए एक वो था ना कि मतलब भाई बंदे को एटलीस्ट एक तो रे की फिल्म देख के रखी होनी चाहिए. मतलब when she had gone out on this, उसने एक भी फिल्म देखी है वो ऐसे करके. I mean, despite I'm pretty sure Rana has not watched Satyajit Ray's film. I feel like I can, whatever you might have, it just feels like he might not have. Then why do you think Piku starts liking him? What really connects with them? What's the thing that connects them? And वो आंखों में क्या बातें चल रही है उनके बीच में? चिल बातें करते थोड़ी सी. हाँ भूमिका.
I know for a fact, having been too many road trips with my partner, I know for a fact that the only way, I'm telling you, the only way you can really understand a person is by doing extremely long mundane trips on the road, which you're like, ये कोई भी रोड हो मेरे को तो सेम ही लग रहा है ना, कितना ही डिफरेंस हो जाएगा इंडिया के रास्तों में. And that I think defines a lot about a person. किस टाइप की बातें हो रही है, क्या किस डायरेक्शन में जा रहा है, क्या फिलॉसफी है बेसिकली लाइफ की, वो बहुत कुछ रास्तों पे चलते चलते सामने जाएगी कि तुम कितना ही बात कर लोगे, क्या ही बात कर लोगे, किसी टॉपिक पे बात कर लोगे. I think that makes a lot of difference. If I talk specifically about the film, they've eased out very easily. मतलब obviously unpredictable ही था कि ये दोनों characters connect कर पाएंगे कि नहीं. I think Rana in the beginning comes off to me as a ठीक है, nice sweet guy, but he's, of course Piku is very good looking. Of course she's amazingly CR Park की लड़की है, ऐसे ही थोड़ी कुछ भी. When he ऐसे ऑफिस में एकदम बन ठन के आया है और ऐसे फिर केबिन के पीछे से हाय बोल रहा है, वो भाव भी नहीं दे रही उसको. So of course when the chance came कि यार एक भी driver available नहीं है और क्या करें, it was very eased out in the plot. एक वो golf कौन सा बैडमिंटन वाला जो हुआ था scene, उसमें भी eased out. So I think वो placement of screenplay was strategic enough कि वो forced भी नहीं लग रहा है, and of course he tried arranging spare drivers, to that I think went along very easily. I'm sorry, I forgot the question.
बस वो
राना
कनेक्ट कैसे
हाँ,
करते हैं?
सत्यजीत रे कैसे देखेगा? आई थिंक यार इवन आई हैव अ लॉट ऑफ नोशंस कि यार इस इंसान को अगर मुराकमी पसंद है तो मैं इसको इंसान कैसे पसंद कर सकती हूँ, मतलब ये ऐसा पॉसिबल ही कैसे? बट आई थिंक वो ग्रेजुअली हो जाता है, और इट विल लाइक वंस यू हैव अ पर्सन इन माइंड जो ऐसे नेचुरली तुम्हारी लाइफ में आ गया विदाउट ऐसे एफर्ट, देन इट्स easier to understand that. मतलब it's okay if the person has different content preferences. उस like तुम दिखाओ ना फिर उसको वैसे फिल्म and try to understand the opinion. When he said वो सऊदी में लोग क्या क्या कर रहे हैं और women are fighting for their driving rights और तुम नहीं चला रही हो, I think that also has a good enough emphasis कि thought तो है, maybe theory नहीं पता होगी. So that's how it maybe comes along.
Maybe he's at that stage where he's like समझ नहीं आया लेकिन सुन के अच्छा लगा.
सुन के अच्छा लगा.
Yeah, Janani, please go ahead.
I feel like everyone saw Piku as a very arrogant, strong-headed lady, but this guy from the beginning knew that she was good. No matter how she was behaving, she was good, and he was able to get through her. Like he was able to get on her good side. God was able to see her vulnerable side, and the most important thing is whenever she starts talking about her dad to anyone, everyone is like what they actually they zone out or they try to pull themselves behind. The same happened with Aniket also, but this guy didn't. In fact, he drew the whole intestines and showed him how to sit all of that. I mean, if you're able to, and for her especially, if you're able to connect with your family on that level without creeping out or anything, I think that's a good point, right? I think that's what she saw in him, and that is where the connection established, and it went well. And a lot of times, like this guy was able to shut his dad's mouth. Even when they were going, his father was like, Raat ko stop, but this guy was like shouted on him, and he even told कि ये option है, ये option, and he was able to reduce the pain from her. From a nagging 70-year-old man, this guy was able to rescue her for at least, even if that was for 5 minutes. And I think that's great.
Yeah, so again, so many points that Janani mentioned was something that I also wrote down about it. He really intrigued Amitabh Bachchan, and that was very interesting for people to see. कि मतलब he's just so curious and he's confused because he's not able to judge and make up his mind कि ऐसा ही है वैसा ही. He's not able to do that, and I think that was very fun for people to witness. Another thing was that he empathized with Piku. I think whenever you're dealing with your parents, even if it's feelings of disagreement, it can be very emotional because you're constantly in a guilt trip in general. And when you find somebody who empathizes with that, who knows you love your parents, but it's okay that you're complaining about them and it's okay that you're disagreeing with them, that really helps you. But now if you tell a third person, if you're bitching about your parents to a third person, unko lagega ki you're sort of you don't have a great relationship with them, when that may not be the case. So when he stood up for her in the car scene that Janani also mentioned, ki when he's telling ki piche ghumao mera machine reh gaya, when he stood up at that point of time, he expressed like a solidarity or like how he empathized with her ki it is difficult dealing with parents and you're not alone in that. Also, he was his individual person. He was not scared of her, and he did not compromise who he was, which made him interesting for her also. Like he's talking about women's rights in Saudi. ठीक है, कुछ लेना देना नहीं है, उसके दिमाग में आया. This is what his thought experiment is, and he's expressed that without hesitating. Should I talk about it or not? That made him interesting, which is why she asked, like, are you just trying to impress me or do you really think that that is true? So that was one thing. And one person had mentioned pehle ki there's some very easy and natural calm that he brought to the frenzy that Piku and Bhaskar sort of were around. So I think that is why, if at all she did end up liking Rana, those were the kind of things that went along the way. Yes.
I was just mentioning one thing that when you're looking for a life partner, I think somebody mentioned that that you're going to go for a road trip. Yeah, it's very true. Road trips, trekking, that's the litmus test to select your partner. Number one. Number two, the equation between Irfan and Deepika. I think if we can just go take a recap over here and go rewind. Remember that party scene wherein a guy was approaching him, a bong guy. He's in real life also a bong. He works in advertising. So Amitabh categorically mentions that she's very independent and she has multiple partners and she's slept around, so she's not interested in getting married. So he was not, first of all, letting her go also. Let's understand that. And it was in our back of mind that I'm supposed to be with him. So Irfan, I think, more than Deepika, was able to convince Amitabh. Right. And since he was finding him a convincible boy, that's why I think Deepika was more convinced. And why? Because she thought that my father is also appreciating him throughout that road journey, and whatever sequences Radhika mentioned, obviously that were built up to show that equation between three of them. But we need to understand he's not a very conventional father over here. Unlike the Bengali father that is shown in Vicky Donor, right? He does not want her daughter to get married at all, right? So I think Irfan was able to impress not only Deepika but both of them. So that was like a confident card for Deepika to chalo, theek hai. Because my father have said there would be something nice about this guy. I think that.
Coming to that thing, first of all, I never actually saw Piku and Irfan as a couple as such. There were the exchanges and the glances, like Sankalp said. It was very, very subtly done. Never ever where the line gets crossed. I always found them like two very, very close friends kind of a thing. उसमें मतलब obviously वो time नहीं है लेकिन but the vibe they shared was the mutual support, because both of them were kind of in a similar situation. She was with her father and Rana with his own family. वैसे kind of a tussle. Because एक point पे Rana also says छोड़ा तो मैंने भी नहीं अपने माँ को. तो he doesn't, I mean, can't live with them, can't live without them kind of a situation ना. तो उसमें अटके हुए हैं दोनों. But I mean that equation comes in very naturally, I think, because I mean, how should I say? I really like I think the one thing which makes it work is how they kind of complement each other. And abhi I think Diksha ne bola na ki because not only like she was finding qualities in him, even her father, who was very pricky about who actually like don't want his daughter to get married. Like देखभाल करना है ना मेरा, अभी तक मैंने देखभाल किया, अभी तो it's her time to look after me. So he doesn't want, but still he accepts this kind of a guy, because he said, why are you being if you are honest, why are you being sad? Honest लोगों के साथ ऐसा ही होता है, तुमने जो किया तो वो सही किया. So see, there is approval. He is always in that kind of he's a very pricky person. In that nitpicking of everything also, he's approving this guy. Because end में जब राना आते से, आपको मैं एक बात बताता हूँ ना कि आपको ना कोई समझ ही नहीं पाता. है, there is a big affirmation. नहीं था यार, नमक चुराना बंद कर दीजिए आप. तो he still accepts that, I'm sorry. But I mean, I think that is the kind of a thing. And end tak it's shown until Rana's car fades away. When he starts back from Kolkata, you see Deepika that she's still. I mean, think of the first scene. तो order booking ले लेते तो नहीं उतर लेते ना booking, अगर driver नहीं भेज पाते तो she's shouting. at the top of her voice at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning in that cold, chilly Delhi winter. And then here she's standing very calmly and seeing him go away. For whom to stand so calmly and see someone go away? You cannot do it for someone whom you don't have a connection with. You need to, you only can stand and see a person leave also only if you have that kind of a vibe or a connection with that person. So I think that in that way it's displayed very beautifully by the writing, by the and also by the characters, of course. Like Piku's character, she understands that he is supporting I know the kind of thing. Just before the song Teri Meri Baatein sets in, वहां पे उसके पहले there is this incident ना, like वो कान की बैटरी वाला scene. He said like 1 minute साला जब से सुन के मेरा दिमाग खराब हो गया. She is immediately, like, you cannot speak to my father like that. जो भी है, it's my father. You cannot speak to my father. Then Irfan takes a stand, like क्या पता नहीं parents को क्या खुशी मिलती है emotional blackmail करके, क्या मतलब ले जा रही है ना आपको, क्या कर रहा है? Why can't you see that? So Deepika, I mean, Piku sees that, like there is this person. He is not necessarily rude to her father. He just is trying to make him implore him to like to see through the things. So probably that is the kind of connect which Piku finds with Rana, which she doesn't find with Aniket. And she just blames it on the right to vote, and Satyajit Ray nothing to do with that. Actually, he just doesn't get the vibe because उस बंदे की भी गलती नहीं है. ऐसे खाने के टेबल बैठे, potty was hard and mucus ये हुआ तो वो हुआ, शुरू कर दो तो भाई mainland चाइना का mainland है ना, हो गया तब.
सही बात है. उस सीन में पीकू राणा कोलकाता में घूम रहे होते हैं, and I think so Piku asks him, तुमने शादी क्यों नहीं की? And we don't get an answer. It just cuts to the next scene. They're in the car and they're leaving for somewhere. I mean, I don't know. It wasn't really required to get into his character, which was smart, like in the sense of from a screenplay point of view. But yeah, really interesting. I thought that they didn't directly tell us about that. Sadhika had raised her hand.
He mentions कि ऐसा नहीं है, मतलब बाद में जब वो टुल्लू पंप ठीक कर रहा होता है ना, तो she tells के ऐसे तेवर रहेगा तो कोई भी नहीं मिलेगा. He says ऐसा नहीं है, actively देखूंगा तो कोई ना कोई तो मिल ही जाएगा. So एक काम करते हैं, let's try to wrap up the main crux of the discussion by talking about our favorite scenes or our favorite moments. Maybe you could even talk about your favorite lyrics from the songs that were there. Like एक एक करके, if you could just talk about that, वैसे अच्छा ही wrap up. So anybody who wants to start first, talk about their favorite scene and आपको कुछ trivia पता हो फिल्म के बारे में तो भी बता देना.
One of my favorite scenes is when he brings kachori and everything and he's in the washroom and she's shouting ki all my life I've had kaddu karela because of him and now he's bringing all this nonsense. Okay? And then when she yells at, like, tells him Hasi ki yes I've had physical relationship, but is that something he needs to tell every man I meet? Okay. I love that. Like her entire body language, she's so just pissed off at that point of time. कि बस्सी हो गया. And plus, Irfan, like Rana had said कि he's selfish. So I think that thoda is going on in her head when she's like getting angry. So that was one of my favorite scenes when she gets mad at him.
And also, are there any favorite lyrics from any of the songs?
बेजुबा में लाइक बहुत ही प्यारे गाने एक्चुअली सारे. एक वो है कि वो एग्जैक्टली सारे गाने के लाइक एवरी लाइन लम्हे गुजर गए उसमें है. फिर दैट पार्ट वे शी इज लाइक आई थिंक श्रेया घोषाल का ना, रंग उड़ाने दे भूल गए हम सवालों को सारे. एंड द वन की जीने की एक ऐसी आदत लगी बेमतलब कर्जे चढ़ गए.
So for me the most memorable scene was the maid one, and she's like he is always punishing me, like कुछ तो कुछ चोरी करके जाती है, and at the end then she tells him I'll only come back in the house when he's dead, and they literally have a fucking callback to that. I love that scene a lot because I'm like बाकी सब तो ठीक है चल ही रहा है, but ये hidden reference, come back, call back, whatever, that was very beautiful. So that is another thing that I liked. And lyric I would say गुनगुनाती राहों पे चल पड़े हैं हम. So that two lines are my most favorite ones. So yeah,
absolutely. कि वो मेड और वो बोलता मतलब कि क्या बोलते हैं फिनाइल कौन चोरी करता है crazy. Yes, Ria.
So basically, there are a lot of scenes. So it's very difficult to pick a favorite scene. It's like picking a favorite book. It's impossible almost. So I like the scene where the पानी का pipe वो पानी के वो ऊपर repair करने जाता है and she comes and like shines a flashlight उधर and just like the subtlety I talked about now, it's just like ऐसे romance की मतलब she wants him to stay, but it's not like her life is going to stop if he does it. So in a way she is also sort of letting go, and मतलब there is like this quiet understanding कि मतलब मुझे पता है तुम्हें क्या कहना है, so I know. So that scene I think it sort of encapsulates their whole relationship ऐसा, and also the end का scene एकदम where they're playing badminton and that maid just comes and she's like दीदी he's like हाँ ठीक है आ जाओ भाई आ जाओ.
Let me over intellectualize that scene थोड़ा सा. अरे उसमें एक तरीके से वो था ना कि symbolize करता हूँ थोड़ा सा इसको, over symbolize. She's still inside her house while she's playing badminton, ठीक है, and she's get connected to somebody from outside, and then outside guy is slowly nudging in with his, oh my god. I'm not saying it. Didn't even realize midway what I was saying.
There are, I think, मैं तो स्क्रीन प्ले में घुस गई थी कि किधर क्या जरूरी है और क्या नहीं. The fact that Irrfan left before, like he was not there during the funeral scene, was very symbolic of the fact that maybe later on she would have felt कि हाँ ये इंसान अगर डेथ भी विटनेस कर लेता तो फिर तो सभी देख लिया है ना इसने, वो ऑब्वियस चॉइस हो जाती. And that was, I think, one scene which I felt was very smartly placed कि उसको नहीं रखा फ्यूनरल में क्योंकि नहीं तो फिर तो सभी हो गया था. That was one thing which struck my head specifically. Then car में when Amitabh Bachchan is contradicting on the fact that marriage shouldn't be ऐसे होता है ना, it shouldn't be a normal course of life, it should be a choice. I think that says a lot about a father, and that's when I could connect him with the progressive father that was there in Vicky Donor and how it matches along. And the third part was in the screenplay जो बिल्कुल जरूरी नहीं था, उसकी लाइफ नॉर्मल ही चलती अगर वो पार्ट नहीं भी होता. बट the fun part about that scene was when her friend Sayyed उसको बोलते कि उसको भी कॉन्स्टिपेशन है एकदम लास्ट में, कि भाई सबको बात बहुत बॉदर करती थी कि उन्हें लगता था, नहीं भाई लगता क्या था, उन्हें यकीन था कि सैयद को भी कॉन्स्टिपेशन है, and then he confronts her and says, it's not chronic. That was that I had my last laugh in that film. I was like ये बहुत मजे आ गई इसमें तो. And lyrics, I think the one line which I think is independent of the film and probably is the most relatable is ख्वाहिशें अनजान है तो क्या करें. मतलब when you know people are like कि चाहती क्या हो लाइफ में, अरे नहीं पता क्या चाहती हूँ लाइफ में, ख्वाहिशें अनजान है तो क्या करें. That I think sums it up for me.
क्या बात है.
मेरा फेवरेट सीन जनरली वही होता है कि जो मैं 5 साल बाद 10 साल बाद किसी के साथ बोल के हंस सकती हूँ, तो मेरे वही फेवरेट सीन्स होते हैं. तो माय फेवरेट सीन इज wherein Irrfan tells his mother and sister, जो तुम घड़ी ये जो अंगूठी चुरा के लेकर आई हो ये सब लेके वापस कर दो, तुम लोग जेल जाओगे. So that's one scene that I still laugh remembering and I tell it to all my friends. वो सीन याद है इरफान कैसे बोलता है वो बिना जेल जाओगे, right? So that's it. I always remember scenes wherein he's making all those faces. So that's one scene that always I enact, and the way he has said being a son to your mother and your sister, he's killed that scene altogether with his nuances and all, and the way he's standing, the way he looks at them. So there's no word for Irrfan in that scene.
Absolutely. Even that scene when he sees them वहाँ पे after that scene where वो petrol pump के पे वो he's मतलब वो pissing, and after that his reaction like हो क्या रहा है इधर ये मतलब, and then he's coming back in the car, he's like हाँ हाँ आ रहे हैं, something is, you know, so I mean you can't not laugh at the entire situation. And like how next time when they are stopping and his reaction to that, सिंहासन निकाल लो वहां रख देंगे ऐसे कर देंगे.
In fact, when he tells his mother, अपनी नेतागिरी यहाँ मत शुरू करो in this office, that is hilarious. So I always
union bazi
करो. So मुझे ये दो सीन तो मैं कितनी बार enact कर चुकी हूँ. So I always remember funny scenes from a movie so that I can, you know, discuss with my friends.
Even the whole who scene between Sayed and Piku, and she's like, "What did you mean by who? You know, why did you say who? That was sorry, Arnab." that one was also nice. And when Irrfan calls Sayed, and I was like, ऐसा लग नहीं रहा कि इन बाप बेटी को पहुंचना है कोलकाता, मतलब इनका जैसे इरादे नहीं लग रहे, खेल रहे हैं मेरे साथ. Very nice.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
So I think there are lots of scenes, but if I have to pick one, I would pick when Piku and Irfan are eating by the riverside, I think, and they're talking. That's a beautiful scene. And as you also said, you know, there are lots of small scenes which are very funny. And one which I like is when, you know, Irfan's mother is in his office, and she's like, "देखो ठंड कितनी पड़ रही है," and he's like, "मैंने थोड़ी ना पढ़वाई तो मुझे क्यों बता रहे हो?" I can so relate to that because I hate talking about weather. So you know, like the way she says it and the way he replies, it's amazing.
I agree to that completely. Like जाओ ना घर पे यहाँ परेशान कर रहे हो. Yes, Satish, anything about your favorite scenes?
Yeah, actually, Siddharth covered it when the maid said, like, "I'll come when this man is dead," and that thing actually happens. This callback. So that was my favorite scene. And मेरे को समझ नहीं आया, like Radhika mentioned, हूँ क्या होता है? मेरे को समझ में नहीं आया. Like, can anyone help me explain, like, वो क्या हो रहा है उस scene में? And what is this home?
So what happens is that she meets Aniket and she comes back and she's just like that. वो सैयद को बता रही है कि he is a jerk and चला गया. He stood her up, I think, from what I get.
नहीं, like
or something like
reject
that.
करके आ गया and like she's like, सत्यजीत रे की एक भी फिल्म उसने नहीं देखी and he doesn't vote. मैं ही उसको टॉलरेट कर रही थी. You are right. He's a jerk. So then Syed asked, बाबा का फोन आया था. He's like, Why did you react like that? Who says क्या? नहीं, तुमने पूछा पापा का फोन आया था, मैंने बोला हाँ, तुमने बोला Who says who? Who did?
ये काफी सही है वाला सीन. काफी सही था.
So I think it was just the way that she gets so irritated about the whom wala scene. That was very funny. So it was just like I just reacted in a normal monosyllabic answer, and you were just like obsessing over it itna zyada. And in that moment, it's like very funny. That's why.
My favorite scene is very cliche, I guess. It's when Boschko dies and they put all of Boschko's things in his bedroom and decorated his whole medicines dabba, which has a lot of his medicines, and he was a big fan of all of those things. And I feel that is a very, very beautiful, very, lovely way of reminiscing a person. Instead of like, back in my house, they don't really like keeping the person's belongings. They kind of burn it away with the person. So I feel like it's very beautiful the way they showed it. Like they actually put them like a beautiful memory. So I feel that's a very beautiful scene. And a very funny scene is when the servant says that मुझे बुलाया था कि मुझे एक इज्जत की job देंगे, and then they make him do all the weird stuff like taking him to the bathroom and making him put the chair and all that. So I feel it's a very funny scene. I feel even the servant plays a very fun role. Like he's so distinct but very near again. They keep checking at a point when they leave from Banaras, they'll be like, check karo ki hai ki nahi, उड़ गए तो अच्छा time hai. So I feel that is a very funny scene again.
Absolutely.
So even the servant plays a very prominently funny role.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have a part, main character, probably he's more for the comedy.
But he fits in, you know, he
Yeah, he
fits in.
fits in. Yeah.
शायद खाली खाली होता घर अगर वो नहीं होता ना घर में, तो घर खाली खाली सा लगता अगर वो नहीं होता.
Yeah.
Like he just adored him for some reason, and like if you remember, वो उनके फोटो के सामने जब डेथ हो गई वहाँ एकदम उनको देख रहा है, बैठा है, हमने कब से बैठा था बेचारा ये. एंड इवन शुरुआत में भी, शुरुआत में छोड़ो, उसके बाद में जब वो लाइट नहीं आया, जिसमें पानी नहीं आया, तो बोलता है भैया पानी अभी तक नहीं आया भैया, फिर बोलता है नहीं अभी भी नहीं आया, थोड़ा सा ही आया, समथिंग इसे 2-3 बार. कैसे तो बात करता है प्यार से ये. एंड आई थिंक आई रिमेंबर एक और चीज, जब पूरा झगड़ा कर लिया उन्होंने वो चाकू को लेके और समथिंग रोड पे, एंड देन ही कम्स आउट, इज लाइक
टायर पंचर हो गया क्या?
टायर पंचर हो गया क्या?
So that's just so cute of the servant.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfectly cast. Really cute person.
And also, yes, the scene where they find a knife in the back and both of them throw it down and he said, this guy doesn't want to go. It just felt like a 7-year-old throwing a tantrum. And now Deepika had 2 kids that she had to take care of.
I read a lot about that scene because it's also the interval scene. तो editors के लिए बहुत crucial हो जाता है decide करना कि कौन सा है. And honestly, editor के पास एक यही सबसे ज़्यादा, apart from the regular job role, this is the crucial decision that editor takes. So the fact that this half of the scene was improvised, or
you can see that on their faces also.
हाँ, सुजीत सिरकर का एक इंटरव्यू इस पे, ही सेड हमने सुबह का शॉट सोचा था कि सुबह सुबह निपटा लेंगे जब सन ऑलमोस्ट ईस्ट साइड पे है, पर आप देखोगे इफ यू आर फैन ऑफ कंटिन्यूटी यू विल सी कि थोड़ी देर बाद ही सन एकदम ऐसे ऊपर चढ़ गया, मतलब 8 से एकदम 12 बज गई है और वहीं पे वो लोग खड़े हैं. तो एक एंड देन देयर आर फ्यू शॉट्स इन दैट सीन व्हिच आर एकदम वाइड एंगल शॉट और ऐसे रुके हुए हैं, एंड यू रियली फील कि टाइम पास हो रहा है एंड दे आर थिंकिंग इन देयर हेड कि क्या करना है. और तब एडिटर ने सुजीत सिरकर को बोला कि भाई जब वो एडिट कर रहा था मतलब कि इधर ही हम इंटरवल रखेंगे, एंड दैट एक्चुअली फील्स कि वो शिट इसके बाद क्या होगा. सो आई थिंक दैट सीन इज अ गुड इंटरव्यू सीन ऑफ कोर्स.
Yeah. I think I remember उसी सीन में ना वो फिल्म के बारे में एक वीडियो भी है ना, where he's explaining the scene. तो उसमें भी क्या बोलते हैं, I think so Irrfan and Amitabh Bachchan are improvising उसमें. You can see it's happening, improvise करेंगे से. And you can see, and at that moment you can see, like Deepika smile रोक रही है, like something like she knows this is, वो एकदम side में है ना, तो फिल्म में properly आ भी नहीं रही, तो it's fine if she is whatever she's doing. But you can see on her face like इसको पता है यहाँ पे लोग they are doing it on their own, let them be. But yeah, मतलब class था. They knew what they were doing, and the film allowed them to, the space to improvise.
सुजीत सरकार ने लिटरली पहले इरफान के कान में कुछ बोला, उसने करा, अमिताभ के कान में कुछ बोला, कुछ करा, फिर दीपिका के कान में कुछ और बोला, कुछ करा, and that's how scene has actually happened. Yeah. One more thing I read about this scene was that people are like, when the film came out, people were debating whether the screenplay, dialogue, story are so good or is it the direction that is so good. And people were like trying to create a takrar between Sujit Sirkar and Juhi Chaturvedi, saying कि क्या ज्यादा अच्छा है. जूही ने एकदम blatantly एक इंटरव्यू में बोला कि कुछ नहीं हो सकता, 13 साल की दोस्ती जो है वो इस पिक्चर में दिख के आई है, and that is what comes to light with the marriage between screenplay and direction. It's so beautiful.
Absolutely. Juhi Chaturvedi, brilliant, genuinely brilliant. The nuances she brings in every film. Like, really, how much life have you lived to get this?
मतलब
like,
उसका
research वो कितना लगता है?
सही में इतना fascinating लगता है मुझे. She was literally writing ads and Juhi and Sujit was directing her ads. Like he was a writer of ads, he was a director of ads, और फिर ऐसे ही बैठे बैठे सुजीत सिरकर ने किसी और के साथ शूबाइट लिख ली और सब कर दिया, और फिर जूही को बोला कि तुम डायलॉग्स लिखो. And I think one more film the same thing happened. So she's worked like, but बहुत easy friendship is her filmography basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah, before Arnab goes, I have something to say. So when I said that I didn't like the film, it is because movie देखने, the after feel of the film was headache. क्योंकि I mean not before the death scene, before till the death scene, the whole essence of the film was such a big headache for me because this guy doesn't shut his mouth at all. Amitabh Bachchan, अरे so much. Like I felt so much pity for Deepika that she had to bear with him. I mean, even though he's her dad and all of that, still I don't know. Easily, I was like, "Arey, she could have just ran away from the situation and lived her life. Oh my God, why is she staying there?" So that was my thinking throughout the film. And now that I'm hearing a lot of different ideas and people connecting, like okay, maybe I didn't hate the film so much, or maybe did, I don't know. But yeah, it's confusing.
You would never know. Arnav, please go ahead.
I think my witnessing Janani for the last year and a half is coming of age film in itself.
I didn't understand.
मतलब जितना I know you, Janani, from these abstract room sessions, I think you yourself are a coming of age film.
पूरा एक आर्क चालू है अभी, तो सेकंड एक्ट चल रहा है अभी. Arnav, yeah, please go ahead.
Multiple scenes. I cannot go on one. एकदम शुरू में ना, when she comes back from office, that receptionist वाला scene, you know, like your father का message आया, read it. His potty was hard, and she comes back and there's like, किचु बोल बे, I'm talking to you, and like, but this is important ना, I should discuss. मतलब मुझे entire sequence, and then there's like, दीदी खाना लगा दिया है, दादू की खिचड़ी बनाए, दादू का खिचड़ी बनाए कि मुंह डाल के खिचड़ी बनाए, शुरू अच्छा एकदम that flow, oh my god, you know, like, and how natural, एक बार भी नहीं लगता, that is it, you know, like एक बार भी नहीं लगता, like it's being played just by actors, एक scene है, and obviously वहाँ पे कट नहीं लगता है, like बस चल रहा है और कैमरा कहीं पे प्लेस करके रखा था, बस शूट कर लिया. Every flow is so damn natural, you know. ये वाला हो गया, हाँ वाला तो कर लिया ऑलरेडी, वो एक one of the most favorite scenes है. विशाल में हर जगह, हर बार उस जगह पे आके उसको 3-4 बार से रिवाइंड करके हूँ और हाँ वो वाला सीक्वेंस देखते हैं, ठीक है. उसके बाद वहां पे the scene with छोबी माशी, you know, like after the वो वहां पे बैठे हैं ड्राइंग रूम में, कौन क्या अनिकेत क्या बोल गया, उसके लिए कितना इफेक्ट बना, हम इमोशनल मैन, आप अगर इमोशनल होते मेरी दीदी वुड हैव बीन खुश, यू नो. छोबी माशी, like Radhika said, I need an entire film on छोबी माशी. I mean, she's probably, I mean, Piku, Bhaskar, Rana, सब big, but I just love छोबी माशी, and probably that's I mean, that's how intelligently the casting has been done, because Moushumi Chatterjee, I mean, people who have known her like in personal and on or off interviews, not only in the screen roles which she have played, she's very that kind of person, you know, like पेड़ पे चढ़ना, बचपन से she has done those kind of things, पेड़ पे चढ़ना, and you know, like her first film के shooting में 4 दिन shooting के बाद भाग गई थी. She was shooting her first film and she was like 7-8 or some कुछ का age, a Bengali film, and 4 दिन की shooting में भाग गई थी because she got bored of the film, literally भाग गई थी studio से. So she's that kind of a person, and she brings that flavor into that character of छोबी माशी, you know, like तुम कल पीकू को देख रहे थे, मैंने देखा, तो इसलिए नहीं मैं तो आपको देख रहा था, अरे ठीक से बताओ नहीं तो फंस जाओगे, आई एम रेडी फॉर फोर्थ मैरिज आल्सो. शी इज इमीडिएटली इन देयर के कोई नहीं, चलो मैं रेडी हूं शादी करने के लिए. तो दैट एंटायर थिंग. उसके अलावा भी बीच में वहां पे वो जर्नी के वाले, hey, you wanted this adventure Steve, sing, click photo, sing song, এটা গান ছিল না এই পথে যে, that sequence is very sweet actually. It's very sweet because of father and a daughter. That's a very beautiful exchange between a father and daughter. When he says, "No, you say," and she again says, "You say." That is the dialogue which they recreate. That's the kind of anecdote which they create for the completely niche of the Bengali audience. Because Bengali people remember, they worship that song. And trust me, they worship that song. वो song का अगर मैं original video भेजूंगा कहीं पे, देखना अगर possible हो तो, they literally worship that song and that sequence. So it's that kind of iconic thing. So again, वो वाला sequence. I mean, और क्या है, मतलब I cannot really, it's very difficult to sum up. Piku and Rana की sequences तो मतलब, hey, the one where he, you know, like where he comes up in support of her. क्या पता नहीं क्या खुशी मिलती है बच्चों को emotional, मतलब parents की emotional blackmail करके. I find that really very powerful. I mean, see, in such a very subtly written movie, there is so much strength in all in you know, like spoons and feeds, like that. You get to understand that the emotions are so real. Oh, one more. That बाद में वहाँ पे जो डाइनिंग टेबल पे कोलकाता में आके लाइक दिल्ली में पानी का प्रॉब्लम है बट ही नीड्स गर्म पानी अलग से हु यूजेस गर्म पानी टू क्लीन द अच्छा एंड देन राणा कम्स अप एंड आपने ऐसे खाने से गाय की तरह चबा चबा के एंड गाय গরু এই লজিকটা ঠিক আছে হি ইজ আচ্ছা হি ইজ অ্যাডমিটিং sorry so there is this so much of scenes. I mean, so many of scenes. I really can't pick on one. Piku ke har scene favorite hai. Har scene favorite because like, that is the thing. It is a film which can make you. I mean, it can make you get really emotional also, as well as can give you like a really roller coaster journey of hilarious laughters and laughter which is not vulgar, laughter which is not forced. There is wit. Like पहले वो मैंगो पल्प जैसा था उसके दिन ही शेलो हो गया एक्चुअली शेड काट लिया शेड शेड ए तुम चुप कर हमारे एज में आएगा तुम समझेगा आपके एज तक तो मैं जाना ही नहीं चाहती तो that kind of a vibe, that entire film. And same goes for the songs, like I mean I think it was Srijit Sarkar's decision that Anupam should sing. I mean, he only composed all the songs, and Srijit made him that you only should sing all the songs. I won't take any other singer. I mean, any other male singer. वो female जो है तुम श्रेया सुनी किसी से करवाओ. Male, he literally forced Anupam to sing all the songs, and thank God he did. So Piku का entire music album track is like that. सारे गाने बहुत favorite है. फिर भी अगर एक चुनना पड़ा, I would do injustice to all the others, and I would choose तेरी मेरी बातें because it's personally very close to my heart.